It's Monday night, September 9th, 2024. Happy Monday. This is Frank Rock. Got the living legend himself, Kerry Williams, back. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Feeling pretty good as a Tennessee fan right now. I've got to be
I
feeling
think
pretty
everybody
good
is.
as we get into it right now. I mean, we get into the game Saturday night. Of course, we have not done one post game yet because we didn't do last Monday night. I come real close to making a big error here just a minute ago. When I hit live, it kind of hesitated a minute, and I almost ended the stream.
Oh
It would
gosh.
have, but thank goodness I didn't click it a second time on that one. But how are we feeling? How are you feeling after 2 weeks at this point?
You know, my expectations have doubled currently. Whatever I was thinking my feeling would be this time after 2 weeks, double it. Um, couldn't have asked for a better start. Nobody could have.
We both picked 11-1. I'll tell you, I'm feeling pretty good about that
I am too.
right now, especially after we've seen Oklahoma this past weekend. Especially, I've seen some saying Alabama struggled a little bit with South Florida, which I'm not sure. I didn't watch any of it. I was at
They
the
did.
Tennessee game. I'm going to share a little bit about the experience there, but I would bet you money Josh Heupel knows somebody that was involved in that game
Yeah, I would
to
too.
discuss with a little bit. So you talked about your expectations doubling now and what? So, I mean, we could go a couple different ways with it, but I'll hit a couple comments here and then we'll come at you with a couple questions, see what you think here. But got David Burgess first one in, said this is just the beginning, more butt kickings coming, and that there have been two major ones so far. And Zachary Barr said easily the best defensive performance I've seen from Tennessee since I first started watching them. That was pretty good. That was a very good one. Lloyd Morris says, go Vols. D Hurd 8955 says, good evening, guys. And D Hurd also said, I watched Oklahoma and they look slow. Buddy of mine, I texted him to see what he thought about it too. And he said they look pretty bad as well. But, looking at it so far, so I'll pose this one to you. I think I know where you'll go with it. But Tennessee that good, North Carolina State that bad, a combination of both. Where do you lean towards on that?
I would lean a little bit more towards a combination of both. I think that they kind of fell apart after their scripted plays ended. Of course, Tennessee did play better all around than we expected them to. The defense completely shut them down. I wouldn't knock NC State. I still think they'll have a great rest of their season. They'll still have a chance to win the ACC, so we can't rule that out. They just didn't really seem prepared after the first series, and that was simply what it was.
I think this is a pretty good comment. Herb here says both lines of scrimmage was dominant. I've seen Jason Swain comment after that first possession. He said, "Looked to me like North Carolina State didn't want any." After that, they hit, like I said, they had their scripted plays. Casey Concepcion had 3 catches, and man, you didn't hear him much the rest of the game. After that, I thought, the big thing with Tennessee's coaching staff was they adjusted. They
Yeah.
adjusted, and people talked about it over the years, the lack of adjustments. And it's funny when you have depth. It's funny when you have depth, when you have more quality, what you're actually able to do with that team. And I'm going to go back to this one. Is this the best defensive performance you've seen from Tennessee in your lifetime?
I'd say yeah. I can't. There's nothing that really comes to mind. Of course, against FCS schools, of course, we shut them down pretty often. But top 25 opponent, most definitely. I mean, last year you kind of can throw in the Texas A&M game, how the defense won that one for us. But Texas A&M's offense doesn't compare to NC State's offense this year.
No, in NC State, I mean, there were some people picking NC State to win. There were people taking the spread on it. I said 45-17, so it went a little better than I expected. But so what I guess looking back at that game Saturday night, so what did you like? I'll just start with that, and then I'll come back next. What a lot to like Saturday night. What stood out to you the most?
I would say just the defense running around making plays. You saw them completely get off the line of scrimmage on all three levels. The defensive line completely dominated their offensive line. They handled business pretty easily. The linebackers, you saw them running around, making plays, laying some huge hits. And you also saw the secondary get comfortable. You saw them in the zone defense to start the game, and they kind of got picked apart by McCall. And then later as the game went, they locked in and they played much better defense. And they had like 20 yards total in the second half. I would say that definitely was what I liked was the defensive play, how it just looked totally different than anything we had ever seen under Heupel.
Now I won't get to this one because I was reading about this today. So didn't see much from Pierce. Heupel was pretty happy with Pierce the other night in the comments, and I saw some of your pay sites talking about Pierce as well. That he actually was, he's not gotten the sacks yet, but
No.
a lot of them talked about that they were pretty happy that he played well the other night. He just, I guess, more or less didn't have the results, but he made some things happen. But to me, I mean, just what that defense did once they got down and Norman Light got that sack, something changed around that time too. And Grayson McCall, once he got hit, I would like to know, because I don't know the yards they had on the first drive, but they obviously didn't have a lot more in their run game, man. What they had, like a couple gains of over 10 yards, but God, they just, like I said, man, they dominated. They dominated NC State's offensive line, and that's considered a veteran offensive line. One guy's supposedly an All-American, and telling you, it just says a lot about what they've built here. And I've started a series, and I hope some of you guys checked it out a little bit last night. I didn't get a lot of views. It got some. Hopefully it'll get more as it goes along. About how Tennessee, under Josh Heupel, they've been known for offense this whole time. Well, what are they starting to, through the first two games, I mean, that offense has been pretty good, but that defense, I mean, what is it now? 12 straight quarters without a touchdown?
Something like that. Yeah, it's like
right?
290 some days now. So,
yeah. So, I mean, kept Iowa out of the end zone. Iowa got close. They got the pick against them last year in the bowl game. Chattanooga Chattanooga, I mean, they took that interception back where Leacock ran them down, missed the field goal. And then, NC State the other night got down, got close. And then how about Will Brooks? Will Brooks with the pick six. And I think we were both kind of the same with Will Brooks. We thought, it's not really what you want to see if the walk on, but I think we both said the same thing. Like, these guys are out here every day. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Since they're coaching them, it's their jobs. It's not mine on it. And just what this defensive staff has done from the time they took over till now, and what they've built with this now, it's pretty fascinating. Now, in terms of the defense, are there any concerns on your part? Is there anything you're concerned about with them?
No, I wouldn't say there's anything I'm concerned about. Until I see the secondary get exposed for more than a few drives, there's nothing particularly that I'm worried about as of right now.
Anything else you'd like to see from
them? Just that first drive or two. Just get a 3 and out to start the game. I don't know if Tim Bakes, if I've noticed he's done this like every game. You saw it last year against Florida. You got picked apart on the first drive because you played zone defense. I think they're just terrified of letting this huge play get past them when you don't have to. Like, you can give up 7 points to start the game, and it's not going to kill you. You still have 3 quarters of football after that. So no matter how they start the game, that doesn't impact how the actual game will play out, considering how lethal this offense really is.
Yeah, and that kind of surprised. I hate it. I hate that. Like I said, the Florida when the game plan when they started that one was just
it was awful.
It wasn't ideal, and it wasn't really ideal the other night. And then they bared down on it and made some things happen. So we got let's see, we got 61 in here right now. Not bad. Not bad for Monday night. We've taken a couple weeks off. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up. Make sure you share this out as well. Get that content out. On the road to 2000, still, it was like, went from 1800, 1900 in no time. But man, it is this last week on here has been an absolute grind. And I put a lot of stuff out. It's just not taking hold. I promise you guys, it's good content. I promise you, or I wouldn't still be putting it out. But it'll pick up. I know I'm kind of the new kid on the block when it comes to football, but quality over quantity, I guess we'll say on it. But to me, I still like, I think you made the comment about seeing this secondary either get exposed or tested. I'm curious to see what they'll look like come SEC play. I mean, I expect this week there won't be much against Kent State. Oklahoma, be interesting to see. And then you've got Arkansas, you've got Florida. I know you said you watched some of Arkansas. Were they more running the football, more pass heavy? What did you see out of them when you watched them?
Still kind of how Sam Pittman plays football. It's more win the line of scrimmage and then get the quarterback plays whenever you need to get the passes downfield. Kind of like you see with Heupel now. Run the ball, and then when something presents itself, throw it.
Yeah, they what was it? There was the one drive where they hit, was it Holden Stays, where they ran it. NC State bit, and then Stays is just wide open. I think they did it with Kitzelman too, possibly at one point. But looking at that defense, man, I mean, this line, we talked about it. We went pretty in-depth on it. And has this line so far met your expectations, or have they exceeded them? And if you turn around and tell me they've underperformed, I'm just going to hit exit on it. But no, have they met?
Okay. I had, like, of course, we talked about it. Like, my expectations for them were already at the ceiling, and they're somehow in the attic. Like, I don't – it doesn't make sense to me how they're this good. You got, 12 guys you're rotating in and out, and every single one of them is a top-level SEC defensive lineman. I mean, like, Rodney Gardner has done such a tremendous job with that group. I mean, that's the best group I've ever seen. If they can continue to do that and stay healthy, you're in a great chance at the end of the season to get a good spot in the college football playoff.
I think we talked about it that night where the org chart was released, and it was 14 deep that we counted?
Pretty much.
And they're all contributing, I feel like. I mean, I know Pierce has not had a sack yet, but he played 10 snaps against Chattanooga. I think he played the most I saw the other night, but I mean, 11 tackles for loss. Of course, that did include the linebackers, some defensive backs as well. But I mean, they've exceeded my expectations because I didn't know what to expect against NC State, a veteran line. I know Western Carolina kind of had a little bit, I wouldn't say had their way, but they had success against them. But just the way they're rotating in and out. And man, I died laughing when I can't remember which possession it was, but NC State subbed late, and then here Elijah Simmons just come jogging on.
That was
NC
beautiful.
State fans, man, they were ticked about it, but had to take the time out. But if you wait to sub late, that's what's going to happen to you. If Tennessee ever waits to sub late, teams are going to do it against you. I mean, that's just the way it is. But who you think's been the best on the defensive line so far? I mean, it's kind of a hard one to say. There's so many, but who has stood out the most to you so far on that defensive line?
I'd have to go just Bryson Eason or Amari Thomas, just because you see them getting a lot of reps and a lot more active. Norman Lott does great with the playing time that he gets, but I think you saw Bryson Eason and Amari Thomas. They got a lot of pressure the past 2 weeks. They've got their paws on some balls, which has led to a lot of success for this defensive front. So I would say Eason or Thomas so far. That's who I've been most impressed with.
Going with it was one of my underrated guys, Tyree West. Tyree West has been really good. The guys you mentioned been good. I feel like Joseph's has done some good things in there. Gosh, just so many of them, man. Just so many making things happen on that inside, and we're seeing it. They're going to wear teams down. I mean, how many times did we see they subbed the whole line out? And
they do that a lot.
I mean, in my lifetime, Tennessee has had some excellent, excellent defensive lines, some great defensive lines. I don't know that any of them in that former era were as deep. They were the top heavy part of it. I don't know that Tennessee has some of the guys that they had in those late 90s, early 2000s. They had some absolute studs. There's some studs on this line too, don't get me wrong. But a lot of those guys went and had success in the NFL, had success at Tennessee. But could they go 12 or 14 deep? I don't think they could. I don't even know if they could go half of that. Maybe half of it, but it was pretty top heavy, and your main guys were who you had to play. I can tell you this for sure. They've not had a defensive line like this in a long, long time. I know you had the Derek Barnett years where they were okay, but they weren't deep.
No.
They weren't deep. Well, you had some guys that were okay besides Barnett. What do you think about the play of the linebackers so far?
I think it's been pretty good. I'm going to jump back to the defensive line real quick because since you were at the game, I don't think that you saw this. It was a third series of the game for NC State, and we had the entire defensive line was the third string. You had Herring, you had Jennings, and there was two guys in the middle, and they were all third string.
I did not realize that, actually.
Yeah, I saw that live, and I was like, wow. Like, none of the big names were in there, and it was the third series of the game, pretty much. That was a huge shock to me.
More than held their own, too.
They were subbed out after like 2 or 3 reps, but they still, I mean, it was the start of the drive, and you see the camera shot of Jason Jenkins and Caleb Herring, and there was 2 other guys that I just can't remember.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. I know, I know they talked pretty high about Moy, the Stanford transfer, that he did some good things the other night. Yeah. So I wonder if he was probably in. Of course, Elijah Simmons. You've got, I mean, it's somebody, it's Tyree West the first week getting the strip. And Dominic Bailey this week gets the strip and the fumble, or forces the fumble this week. I just cannot say enough about what Rodney Garner, Coach Chop, I see old Coach Chop mentioned. He's been instrumental in building this line as well. And, as long as they stay healthy, I mean, it says something that you've got Tyler Barron down at Miami balling out. And, they said, okay, you can go on and the way he's playing. I mean, and he played good for Tennessee last year. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's addition by subtraction, I think, with numerous guys. And I think it's pretty interesting as well. Since Nico took over, since a lot of guys hit the portal, it just seems like more of a team to me. Seems like more of a team to me right now. Back to the linebackers. So I'm glad you mentioned that about the line going 3 deep that early. That's unheard of to be able to do that, really. What stood out to you about the linebacker play so far?
I would say just how downhill they are and how they're constantly making plays. Like, they're not missing tackles. They're tackling ball carriers, and they're flying all over the field. Peely has been a tremendous help. Like, you can just tell that having him back is such a huge help to that room. He's definitely the leader of the defense, in my opinion. And then you got a guy like Carter that's just flying around, taking dudes' heads off. And then that allows for a guy like T-Lander to come in, especially in this last game since Perry was out. T-Lander was in a lot of plays. If you go back and watch the game, he was making tackles or assisting on tackles on a lot of the plays. So Carter and T-Lander, they both played a great game. Peely, of course, is going to steal the show just because he completely took that guy's head off. But I would say I'm extremely impressed with the linebacker room. I knew they would have a good start to the season. I knew they'd be good. They'd be one of the strengths of the defense. Same thing as the defensive line. I did not expect them to be this good.
And Jalen Smith has looked pretty good too.
Yeah.
Redshirt freshman. He's played pretty good. I've been impressed with him too. And this was where I think you never want a guy to get injured, obviously. But I'm wondering, Peely, which team did he serve more of a purpose on, last year's or this year's? And to me, and I'll answer my own question on that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if he plays last year if the win-loss column differs, to be honest with you.
That's true.
This year, though, you've got that veteran where if he would have played last year and been gone, you would have had T-Lander, Carter. Not that they're not capable, but you've got this veteran guy in that that's doing his thing. And I want to hit some comments because you mentioned Peely and got one right here. Peely was awesome. I know he drilled somebody, but he was what I hoped the other night. And I think there was a lot of unknown with him because he played 7 snaps against Virginia, didn't play much against Chattanooga. So we've really not seen a whole lot after him. This is fascinating to me right now. 0 third down conversions after that first drive. I'm just telling you guys, that is big boy, top of the line defense against a team that has some talent on it in NC State. Okay, there is some talent on that team.
Yeah.
And I think it's a case of Tennessee's that good.
Yep.
I think Tennessee is that good. Now, we're going to get to this topic here in just a few minutes. Thought Nico looked good too. We'll obviously go to the offense. Got one here. Oklahoma will test us. Got old Blunt Vegas VFL here outside of Hen Hook. Feel like we have a quarterback that's must see TV each week, especially knowing Heupel's a scheme machine. I mean, yeah, we'll come back to that thought. We'll definitely hit on Nico here in just a few minutes. Was it me or did that score not reflect what a grind the game seemed like? I'll answer that. I was there in person. After that pick 6 from Will Brooks, you could have heard a pin drop in the NC State section in front of me. They were shocked. They didn't know what happened at that. The game was over. I'm telling you, the game ended on that pick 6. They were shell shocked. They didn't know what had happened because it was still a game at that point. Tennessee got the pressure, forced McCall to overthrow, and man, great for Will Brooks. Hats off for him. Dude gets it, takes it back for the pick 6. It was game over after that. And, Tennessee, 460 to 143 on the yardage. I did not feel like a grind at all. It was after that, it just felt that, it was just a beatdown. Yeah. It was men against boys the other night. And I do think NC State's a different team or a decent team. Tennessee that was a group of men playing the other night, though. Let's see where we're at. Let me get Kentucky. Yeah, that Kentucky 22 defense going, but we were talking about the defensive shows. That was one where they made Levis look really bad. Were you there for that one?
Yeah, I was there. That was a great time that game was.
Yeah, Levis, he looks about as good for the Titans as he did that night too.
Don't remind me.
It's our defensive coaching staff would embarrass the infamous Monty Kiffin show. Took Eric Berry. How Eric Berry won defensive back of the year that year, I don't know, because they put him at like the nickel spot. That was one thing. John Chavis had Eric Berry. He was doing his thing. Let's see what else we got. Tyree West. McCoy. How about McCoy, man? We hadn't even talked. You talked about the secondary a little bit, getting that you gets him tested. What about McCoy, man? He's the real deal.
He is. He's been really good.
He looks like a player to me. He's better than anything they've had over. Now Kamal Haddon was starting to come into his own last year until he got hurt. But other than that, so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of these corners. And you can tell me more on in person. I thought the Ricky Gibson pass interference was a crock. But you saw it, probably the replays more than I did, obviously on TV. What were your thoughts on that one?
I didn't think it was. He just had his little bit of – both guys had their hands. The guy kind of ran out of bounds on himself. There was nothing there that really showed that it should have been pass interference. But there was kind of a few plays on back-to-back drives that it was kind of like the officials kind of let some stuff slide. because there was a deep ball. I think it might have been to McCoy. And one of the wide receivers got their jersey pulled from the back, and you could see it on the live shot, but they didn't call that either. So I think they were just holding it into their pockets early in the game. Of course, they saw all the contact with Gibson. He didn't really do anything, in my opinion, but they still just threw the flag. I guess to give NC State some help because they sure as hell needed it.
Yeah, that's a fact. That is a fact. But I mean, it looked to me like on it that, yeah, like I said, it's just two guys getting position. If the dude goes out of bounds, it's supposed to be an uncatchable pass. I thought it was a joke of a call myself. I wasn't happy about it, but it ended up not hurting, fortunately. But let's say we got 92 in here right now. Pretty good little crowd tonight. You guys make sure you share us out. Let's hit 100. Let's get this thing over 100 tonight. Let's start building this Monday night show up. Let's build this football brand on here, because I know this things will take off come basketball. It's definitely going to take off come baseball. Baseball's going to be hot and heavy this year. I can tell you that once again. So guys mentioned Henderson, Haynesworth. That's kind of the ones you mentioned. Joseph played well. You talked about him in.
The pick six doesn't happen without Joseph.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Best defensive performance since the 03 Miami game. That was a good one, 10-6. That was one of those games that was hard to watch, but Tennessee's defense was excellent on that day. The thing I liked the other night, too, and it was like when I was sitting there, I don't know how you felt because somebody said about it being a grind. When NC State went for it twice on fourth down, I was licking my chops. I was like, I love it. They're getting ready to pay for this. And it was one I felt no doubt. I felt no concern that they were going to get that. And Tennessee just so many guys doing so many things the other night. And what I liked after the game too, Josh Heupel talked about it and mentioned Reggie White, Al Wilson, Eric Berry. We played defense here. So up to this point, and we'll see, of course, a lot of football to go. Did you think it was possible for a Josh Heupel team to have a good defense? Like a consistently good defense? Of course, there's a long way to go. And we might maybe this is a mirage, but
not really. I thought for sure. I didn't think we'd ever have necessarily a great defense. I knew we'd probably have a good defense, which we showed good defense at times last year, but I never thought that we would be as dominant as we have been this year. If we can keep this up over the next 5 years, then you're starting to look at a powerhouse in the making. Then we're going to kind of turn into more like Georgia, of being a dynasty. Hopefully, one can pray that we turn into that. If he continues to build this defense, if they continue to look like they are right now, the future is brighter than bright.
With that said, and I want to kind of piggyback off of you. Well, I'll piggyback off of it here in a minute. This is a good one right here. So G White, member of the channel. So, of course, you guys see that banner going across the bottom. I've had people get mad at me because there's membership tiers. Guys, it's still a free channel. Nobody – I'm not on here begging for money or nothing like that. It is, you make content. Sometimes if you can get a little bit, you can. But, we're not on here begging for it by any means. We appreciate any donations to the channel or anything like that. But the content is free. Some of the members I would like to get with and do some content with them on some of the series I've got planned coming up. And I'll message you guys on some messages, try to get you to email me and we can maybe hook something up here. But is Tennessee a top 5 team to you?
I'd say right at the borderline. I would say that we're right around that 5. I wouldn't say we're one of the top 3 teams in the nation, just considering if we lined up against Georgia, Texas, maybe Ole Miss, Ohio State, one of those random teams, if we lined up against them this week, I know against Texas or Georgia, unless it's at Neyland Stadium at night, I'm not going to be biased here. I don't see that going their way as of right now. I still think Nico's got to improve a little bit more. He's great. He's beat expectations so far. He's just got to get a little bit more experience and some better decision making before I get fully confident in being a top 3 team in the nation.
I think I'm kind of in. Well, I guess I'm thinking top 5. I'm thinking they're that good, but like I said, the big thing with Tennessee to get over the hump, it's going to be Georgia. It's going to be Georgia,
Yeah.
but how good's Texas too? Now, a part of me does wonder if Michigan not a little overhyped, but still, Texas went up there and dominated
Texas
them.
is still good.
Yeah, Texas is really good. They were really good last year. Still really surprised they lost to Washington in the playoffs.
Yeah, that was.
I really thought
surprising.
Texas would beat them, but go to show you what they could do. I mean, we'll see with Alabama. I mean, I think Tennessee will give them a lot of trouble when they come to Knoxville. You made a good point. We'll get to that one in a minute about Nico. There's other teams up there that, I mean, Ohio State, they're going to be good. I would like to see Tennessee play them, see how they would do with it. Yeah. But this is a really good team. Let's put it that way. There's some really good teams out there, and I'm really curious to see where it goes. But I don't really disagree with it. And I wanted to kind of hit on some of my experience with it. So I had a video last week. I'm actually in favor of the neutral site game, and here's why I am on it. And that goes beyond other. I had a great experience. Now, they did have, I know a lot of places you go to a bar or something beforehand or shoulder to shoulder. We did the tailgate experience where they rented out the Charlotte Knights Stadium, which is just down the road from AAA team of the Chicago White Sox, or I guess they're still the White Sox. It was a fun event. All you can eat, all this stuff along the way. And then they had Chancellor Plowman was there, President Boyd come out. They had old Sterl the Pearl there. Toward the end, Grant Williams, John Fulkerson, they were there, come in. I saw Steve Hamer out there. Got my picture taken with the national championship trophy on it. They had it on display, had people doing that. They had so much. It was a fun experience. And that says a lot about Vol Nation that they're renting out a AAA baseball stadium. And there were a lot of people there with it as well. But then, of course, we went to the game a little bit early. We're pretty fortunate and where we ended up with some tickets. And, but just going in, I've not been to Neyland Stadium in 10 years. I went to Columbia 2 years ago for South Carolina. Went to the Battle at Brill back in 2016. And both of those experiences, I feel like you couldn't move. There were lines everywhere. And Bank of America Stadium I don't think it was sold out, but it was pretty close. And I do think Tennessee fans were outnumbered. NC State brought a good crew with them. But, man, it was just so easy to get around. There wasn't lines really to wait in. It was just a pretty pleasant experience. Obviously, the game itself helps out a lot, too, when it goes that well. But, I mean, NC State fans were cool. I'd met a buddy of mine. We didn't sit together. We met out at halftime, and we're just sitting there minding our own business talking. We had numerous NC State fans coming up telling us to take it easy on them. They were cool. I mean, and then, of course, NC State, most of their fans cleared out pretty early in that third. I think Tennessee got that first touchdown, and they cleared out. Was pretty nice to see. But here's why I'm in favor of the neutral site game. And I'm not looking at it from a fan perspective. I'm looking at it from a program perspective because I did pass David Sanders Jr. He was there Saturday night because I passed right by him. There were other Charlotte area recruits in attendance. And that state of North Carolina is going to be big for Tennessee moving forward. Here's the thing. You look at Tennessee's schedule. They're going to play 7 home games. They're not going to play 8 home games at any point. You're going to have 4 SEC home games. You're going to have 4 SEC road games on your schedule, and then you're going to have 4 non-conference games. I'll be honest, I don't give a damn about going to NC State. And it's just my opinion on it. If we did home and home, we'll say Ohio State, Michigan, USC, something like that. Yeah, I could see it there. But against an NC State, against the Syracuse next year, against the West Virginia in a few years, I just don't care about it. And it's my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm wrong on it. But especially if you're Tennessee, you played last year in Nashville. You're playing this year in Charlotte, or just played this year in Charlotte. You're playing next year in Atlanta. You're going to play again in 2 or 3 years in Charlotte. If you're Tennessee, that is your 3 hotbeds to play in. You're getting out there. You're visible to those recruits. They can come watch you play. I think that's better than going on the road. That's just my opinion on it. And I know, would NC State be a good place to watch a game? Possibly so. But just my opinion on it, you're trying to build a program and you get out and do that. That's just kind of mine. What you may disagree with me on it. What's your thought on the neutral site games?
I totally disagree. I hate them with everything in me. I think it's a waste of money. The money should go to the universities. I would have loved a home and home series with NC State. I personally do not go to neutral site games I just don't think, I don't want to give my money to some organization like that when I can give it straight to the university. I would have had no issue. I would have bought my ticket instantly if it would have been at NC State. But I can't get behind supporting Duke's Mayo personally, or last year in Nashville. It's just pointless to me. I'm not driving 3 hours west to Nashville just for a neutral site game to open the season. I'd rather have drove up to Virginia and then this year drove to Carter Finley Stadium. That's just my opinion too. I don't think I'll ever get behind
Virginia Tech would be pretty good, actually.
Oh, Virginia Tech, that'd be awesome.
Let's see, BS. I did not see any. Now we had some. We sat right behind the NC State section. There were some. It was all in good fun. Nobody was a jerk, at least to me, on it or the row I was sitting with, because some of the guys beside me, they were having some fun with some NC State fans. I honestly did not hear any that were. I know some other fans I've seen that said that they were kind of salty. I honestly can sit here and tell you with all honesty, I did not hear a single negative word from any. As I went in during the game, some were having fun. We were kind of laughing back and forth, but not much you can say when Tennessee's got their foot on their throats and not letting off.
Yeah.
There's not a lot, but I didn't hear any. The ones I dealt with were pretty nice. They were pretty cool people.
They were all in my comment section the week of the game.
Oh, were they? I heard some of that. The Twitter world was.
Yeah, that was really fun, actually.
I totally agree with this, G. White. I think they do it for recruiting. I think that's why they do it, and I get it from the fan perspective. But me too. Charlotte's closer for me than going to Knoxville, so it allows me kind of to see them. But I get it. I get everybody's perspective on it. Me though, when they get 7 home games in a year, I don't have a problem with that neutral one. Maybe next year they can get French's mustard for the sponsor or something. So you're saying you won't go to Atlanta next year to watch them play Syracuse?
No. I won't. Especially not Atlanta. I'd avoid there at all costs.
Do you agree with this? As Yeehaw Lager tastes like 98?
I fully support this statement.
I fully support it too. This is the thing about Tim Banks. We got to talk some offense here as well. It's funny to me this week now starting to see Tim Banks comments after what we've seen the last 3 years. People say, man, we can't let him get out of here now when there were so many people wanting him to go. Has it always been there for Tim Banks? He's always been able, as far as his coaching ability, has the coaching ability always been there?
Not in my opinion. No. I think changes have had to be made.
Like?
The secondary. You saw Martinez come back in. You also saw there's been some scheme change a little bit. He doesn't play as much zone as he would want to. You saw him do that in the past, and we saw the outcomes of those games. You saw teams like Georgia, of course, but other teams just completely abuse their defense. You saw Purdue just completely light us up. We let Purdue score 40-some points on us, and I was a big Banks hater. I'll admit that. He's done a lot. I don't think he's as important as some people make him out to be. I think the most important coach on the defense is Rodney Gardner, but I think he's the second most important coach on the team besides Heupel. Banks, he's going to have to put it together for a few seasons for him to get my full support.
I did that evolution of the defense last night on the first part. Talked about that Purdue game because you had Alontae Taylor sit out, who, by the way,
Yeah.
had 3 sacks yesterday against the
Yes, he
Panthers.
did. Yep.
But he was easily Tennessee's best defensive back that year. And I look back on it, I don't know that the scheme was good, but man, that defensive back talent was rough. Their defensive talent was rough.
Yeah.
When these guys got there. I think it says a lot about that staff that they went 7-6 that first year with so many defections, with some of the talent. I mean, I looked at the linebacking core and, I know all these guys and these defensive backs gave their all for Tennessee. I don't know, man. I'm like you. I got to see it from Banks. I got to see it in SEC play because it seems there's always that one game or something. It's like, what is going on here? But I think definitely building the defensive line, Rodney Garner and what he's built is making a big difference on it. Let's talk some offense now. We've spent a lot of time on it. Oklahoma game, Nico coming out party. So based on what you saw of Nico, how would you grade him the other night?
What's the basis of grading them? Are you doing like 0 to 100 or A, B, C, D, F somehow?
Yeah, A through F.
A through F.
I mean, you go number if you want to.
I'll do the letters. I would A+ is a Hendon Hooker performance against Alabama in 2022 without the fumble and late in the fourth quarter. I would say B or B+ this past game. I'm not going to give him an A just because he had 2 interceptions. The one of them wasn't
B+
really.
on him. Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
B+. Yeah, I wouldn't say B- like people in the comments are saying, just because I can't be too harsh to the kid considering he's just a freshman.
I think I went B- on him actually. And you know why I did it more? Because I went based on his own feedback. He said I was okay.
Yeah,
I was okay. And I only think one of the picks was on him. There was a throw or two I didn't like. I think it was the first drive, 3rd and 3, and he tries to throw deep to Brew. I don't think that was the right read.
He also missed one, the squirrel. It was a 3rd down. Squirrel was running an out route, and he rushed to pass because the guy was running at him, and he overselled him.
Think this is an accurate statement? Oklahoma game's his coming out party?
Wouldn't surprise me. He made those comments about playing on the road.
I've seen some people saying that. Yeah, I saw some people saying that even before NC State, and that if that is an okay performance from him,
yeah,
that's better than most
pretty
performances other than the Hendon Hooker years that we've had in a long, long time. Man, this is a good question. Do you think Dylan Sampson's better than Jalen Wright?
Yes, I do.
If Jalen Wright would have been playing for Coach Sims with the amount of carries Sampson's getting, do you think Sampson would have been better?
No, because you saw Wright tap out a lot. He got tired really quickly. Wright's a different running back than Sampson. You see it every game. It's just 2 different guys. I think Sampson has a much higher ceiling than Wright does. Wright's still like a great running back. You can't underestimate that. Like, he's still going to ball out in the NFL. I just think Sampson, I mean, he's got Kamara potential. So,
you right here. I was getting ready to say, do you like this comparison?
I love that comparison.
Yeah, his speed, the way he cuts, the way he can get outside, he can catch the ball and go. Are we talking about the wrong guy for Heisman on this team in Nico?
People,
obviously people putting the cart before the horse.
They wouldn't give it to a running back unless it's Derrick Henry again. They just, I don't see them giving it to another running back. I think Sampson could have a better year on paper than Nico, and they would still give it to Nico if it came down to it.
I'll tell you what, man, that shovel pass scares the absolute crap out of me. I know they got it on that first possession and got that first down the other night, but they've been dangerously close to a disaster with it a couple times.
Yep.
Now, and I'm afraid you get into one of these good SEC defenses, you might pay for that one. Appreciate G. White, worth every penny. Love the content. The Rock House for Advanced Tennessee Sports Studies. That is right. We're doing it all here. Doing it all. Year-round channel, everything school, everything channel. They were talking about it when Chancellor Plowman was out at the field Saturday, talking about how much pride everyone's taking in being an everything school. And just to hear her talk, to hear President Boyd talk, what that admin's doing. I wish we've got to see Danny White and hear from him as well. He didn't talk if he was there, but I know I seen some people say he was in Charlotte. But just what they've done again, man, is just, let me see if I can get caught up on the comments here. JFG better than Duke. Come on now. I don't know about that, but let's see. What's up, Eric Jones, member of the channel? Appreciate you, Eric, and other guy on the panel. That guy's name is Kerry Williams. So,
Howdy.
Let's see. Let me see if I can get called up here. Oh yeah, secondary. I see what you're saying. B minus, B minus. I don't know about this, man. I think Beck and viewers are pretty freaking good. Yeah. They're pretty freaking good quarterbacks. I saw any
Beck
problem
firsthand last year. He's pretty stinking good.
Beck?
Yeah, I saw him. I mean, I saw the Georgia game last year. He was.
Oh, yeah.
He looked really sharp. And I was expecting him not to look sharp. But he looked totally different than he did last year against Auburn early in the season.
All right. I think we're all called up. We're at 105. Pretty good little show. Pretty good little crowd tonight. All right. Offense. We didn't really talk much. You said B to B plus. We talked about the interceptions. What did you like that Nico did the other night?
The one thing that I mentioned on Twitter, at least, I liked him bouncing back. He threw the interception, and then you saw I think it might have been the next pass attempt he took on the next drive. He took a deep shot down the line, and he dropped it right in the breadbasket. And that was huge to see, that his confidence didn't get shot whatsoever. You saw the guys pick him up after he threw the interception, and he just stuck with the game plan. It was like he never threw an interception. So it was really nice to see him not getting in his own head, because you see that a lot of times with young quarterbacks is they get in their own head and then the nightmares happen. You saw that with Grayson McCall. He got in his own head. He was getting tormented by the Tennessee defense, and it was turnover after turnover after turnover.
I think this is a pretty good one. Wonder if there was any nerves with hearing about NC State coming in, that 3-3-5 and
I think there
stuff.
Was.
Now, I thought it was interesting that you brought up the interception when he went to the sidelines, how they picked him up. But Josh Heupel talked about how Nico, it didn't bother him. He went right back to work, and he said, I can tell you, everybody on this sideline noticed it too, and they fed off of it. So, yeah, he hit was that the one he hit Squirrel for the long game?
Yeah, that was the one he hit Squirrel. Yeah.
This, I'll tell you, man, I love this, and I really hate that Kitzelman had that touchdown call back. How about them tight ends, man?
Them tight ends, they're so good. Like, wow. It's just amazing to see how good they are.
Kitzelman had, 2 catches for 18 yards in 2 years at Alabama, and he surpassed that in one game Saturday night. And he looked good, too. He graded out, according to PFF, like 94% or something.
Something like that,
which is elite. That is elite. But just with him, we've seen good out Ethan Davis. Holden Stays got the touchdown the other night. I don't know that other than Dylan Sampson on this team that you're going to see a guy consistently put up numbers. I think they have so many players, either receiver or tight end, that it's going to be somebody different in the passing game each week. Dylan Sampson, I think, is going to have a monster year. And I've called that from the beginning, that this will be it for him. And then, but behind him, what'd you think about Bishop the other night?
I thought Bishop played really good. You saw him take care of the snaps that he had. He ran down the defender on the pick six. He almost had him. 5 extra yards on the field, he would have had him. He played really good, in my opinion. Of course, he's still got some development. You see that he has to get little bit more reps on him, a few more games, maybe another year. Um, it worries me that Selden doesn't seem to be healthy. Um, I think if he's out, that's a huge hit to this team because after Sampson, he can't play every rep just because of how good he is. If you got Bishop and then that's really it, I don't necessarily like having to rely on Keith and Peyton Lewis as a freshman, in my opinion.
Saw something today about said Selden got his bell rung. So I don't know, would that have happened in
I don't know.
practice or did it happen against Chattanooga? Because
He
I had
probably
not
tripped on
seen
a helmet.
anything about that. What's that?
He probably tripped on a helmet.
Yeah, I bet he did. Must have had Shy Tuttle hanging out. Or no, it's Nigel Warrior. Nigel Warrior must have come back down there and did it. But I would almost, if Selden's, got his bell rung or something, I'd almost keep him out this week against Kent State. We'll talk about
I wouldn't
Kent
play
State
him
in a
this
minute.
week.
I'd get Sampson his touches, and then I would Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis, Khalifa Keith, them to death. But keep him out this week, have him ready for Oklahoma. That's going to be the bigger game. There, we talked about, I don't know, anything else we didn't hit on with we talked about the passing with Nico.
Yeah.
What about his ability to take off? I thought that was going to be a key coming in this game.
I think
How
he's
about
more
the call
effective.
on third down with the draw?
The one in the second half? Yeah, that one was nice. I think it was the highlight of that play for me was the offensive line, the tackle or the right guard pulling over to the left and making that block because he wasn't even close to getting touched on that play. I like that. I mean, that's shades of Hendon Hooker. I feel like he's more effective than Hendon Hooker was. You can see he kind of makes the decision a little bit quicker. He just sets his mind to go. Probably because he hasn't got his bell rung too hard yet, which he probably will get more skittish later down the year. But right now, he's just running like a chicken with his head cut off, and I love that personally.
How good's this dude going to be come into the year?
There's no telling how good he's going to be. I mean, Heisman potential and then some. I feel like he could start. He could probably start at the end of the year on an NFL team if they had to.
Guy's got talent, man. He has got a lot of talent. And, we think about it, 3 starts in, and this is how good he looks. And, again, if that's, according to him, an okay performance the other night, over 200 yards passing, pretty efficient completion percentage. Gosh, man, it has to excite you. I mean, that was the thing about the bowl game last year against Iowa. He wasn't perfect. He had mistakes in that game, but it was obvious the talent he possessed. I mean, when he rolls out, how accurate, how he can hit that sideline throw, how he has the touch on it. And I like it. He's reflective. He'll say he's not naive if he makes a mistake or anything. That, you had the game against Chattanooga, the end of the half, the 2-minute offense didn't go well on it. No. He said, wish they could have finished well on it. I just think sky's the limit for this dude. When it's all said and done, who's better, Nico or Hendon Hooker?
I think you have to go with Nico. It's just an unfortunate end of Hendon Hooker's career. So I think that's a difference maker you're going to get this year and then next year out of Nico. Maybe possibly longer if something does happen. Depending on how good that NIL contract talks, you could possibly get him for another year. It just depends how the rest of this season goes, how next season goes. I still think
I don't think you get him.
He finishes better. Yeah,
I don't want to get him 4.
I know there's always a possibility. The family loves it, so
I don't want to get him 4 because I want to see him next year ball out and then go like top 5, number 1. Because that's, especially with the quarterback factory they're building in Knoxville already. Guys see that. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. And I never wish talent away, but I do think there comes that time where you need guys
Yeah, to step
you
away.
need them because the dudes, their goal was to ultimately make it to the NFL on it. Papa J, what's up, man? Let me hit this one here. $4.99. Papa J, member of the channel. Always appreciate his generosity. Thank you, Papa J. Can't wait to see the defensive stunts and blitzes against Oklahoma. Go big orange. Based on what I've heard people say, Oklahoma looked pretty rough the other night.
They did.
So, looking, I had some scores pulled up because I wanted to look at Kent State here in a minute, but let me go to Oklahoma. Now, we can probably put a little bit ahead, but I mean, I like Josh Heupel said today, there were some teams got caught looking ahead last week and it didn't go too well. Said, we're not looking ahead.
Yep.
Jackson Arnold was 19 of 32, 174, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, they were 28 carries, 78 yards.
Not good.
If you can't run on Houston, and that's nothing against Houston, go have a long day against this defensive front.
Yep.
Houston's quarterback was 24-48 for 260 also. So I think for Tennessee, if you're focused, you take care of business, you stay healthy, I think you got to be licking your chops.
I think you
got to be licking your chops
Yep.
going to Oklahoma. We both picked them. We both picked Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'll stick to it. I'll stick to it too.
I don't see what happened last year against Florida happening this year when we go to Oklahoma. It doesn't really scare me as much as the Florida game did last year.
No, that goes back to your point earlier about game plans. I thought that was one of the worst game plans during the Banks era. I think
it's
that
also
one
just a swamp.
God. The House of Horrors.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it.
But, you see Lagway?
Anything else on the offense that we didn't talk about that stood out to you?
I'd like to see them develop a wide receiver to stick with, because you're going to have to, like we mentioned preseason, you're going to have a guy that you can constantly go to. Of course, it probably will end up being Brew. I just think you got to have a guy that gets a majority of the reps that you see constantly. That Nico kind of has to have a safety guy to throw it to that's not a tight end.
Yeah, I think he's got a pretty good tight end arsenal. I think it's Brew when it comes down to it, but I also think possibly Squirrel White. But, yeah, it was kind of surprising that the wide receivers really didn't have a ton of production.
They didn't.
The other night. And I don't know that was so much on them. But, I mean, what did you notice from here? Were they getting separation? Was Nico just not hitting them? What was the deal on that?
I mean, there was a little bit. Nico wasn't as sharp as you would hope. They were getting separation. I think Nico wasn't trying to get ahead of himself. If it wasn't a designed deep ball, he wasn't really throwing it down the field too far. And some of the passes that he did try to get down the field, like the one to Brew, it was kind of just a misfire on his end.
I think this is pretty interesting. So when Heupel come in, I still say that first year, that 7-6 was fascinating that they were able to pull that off. So many guys jumped ship, so much negative recruiting. I think they've dealt with negative recruiting up till finally the sanctions were behind them. But sometimes patience pays off. Patience pays off when you build things. You make a lot of change. I mean, they've had some coaches leave, but the guys that come in this year, I love the William Inge hire coming in. I think he meshed well with what Tim Banks and Garner wants to do. I appreciate Brian Jean-Marie for rebuilding that linebacker room, because when his staff took that defense over, it was in rough shape. Garner had a little bit of talent to work with. Willie Martinez and Brian Jean-Marie did not have a lot. They had to go out and get some guys, and I know they've had their criticism, and there's still going to be a lot. Willie Martinez is still going to be under the microscope until they do it against SEC teams. But I think where they've gone so far with this line, it's going to give them a lot of opportunity. Oh, we got a big 31-13 UT over Oklahoma. I could deal with that.
Me too.
I could definitely deal with that. Pedestrian offense, can't run or pass. I mean, if you can't do any more than that on Houston, I don't think
Good
much is
luck.
going to happen. Um, didn't throw all over the field. No, we used the middle. I thought quite a bit more, and except when those tight ends got out. NC State set up not to give up the deep ball. Yeah, that's why we just ran it and then tight end them today. I thought it was an excellent game plan. I thought what Heupel and that staff, even the defense, the way they adjusted to it, I thought that was fantastic coaching on their part. Just a heck of a night for Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
They showed America what they're all about. Now you've got another tune-up game, and then it really gets real at that point. So is there anything at all about Kent State that has you concerned this week?
No. I think the only thing that concerns me is, do they quit by halftime, or do they stick out for the whole game and get 70 dropped on them?
Kent State last week lost to St. Francis, Pennsylvania, the Red Flash, 23-17 at Kent State. And St. Francis is FBS, FCS, Division II, as they used to call it.
It's just,
I'm looking at Kent State. For God's sake, Kent State quarterback had a quarterback rating of 10.
That's what
quarterback rating of 10.
He's putting up Will Levis numbers.
I believe you could go out there and at least get a 15.
I probably could. Just hand the ball off, some screen passes. We'll get it done.
Yeah. A 10.
That's
against a Division II team. Yeah, I know people with IQs around that level. Zachary Barge says that's lower than my IQ. I know people that 10 was higher than their IQ too, though. So I know, but a 10, that's crazy. Now, did I see, this is kind of on NCAA 25, is there like some quarterback on it that his overall, he's like a 10 or something that I see for East Carolina? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that, but I know there's a few that's really low.
That's hilarious. The backup come in, went 1 for 1. No, this was a running back. Threw one pass for 9 yards and got a 17.2 rating. That can't be right.
You ain't gonna do much.
One pass for a touchdown. Wow. How bad do you think it's going to be this week?
Like I said, can they keep us? Can they go home at halftime, or are they going to stick it out for the 70-point burger that Josh Heupel puts on them? Because it's happening. He's breaking 70 this week. I'll be the first one to say it. You can't avoid it. It's going to happen. Offense will score a bunch of touchdowns. Defense will probably score a touchdown. Special teams will probably score a touchdown. It's going to be a bloodbath. And I'm going to sit there through the entire game, get out of the stadium at like 11:30, and then be up for work next morning at like 7.
Yeah, I got home at 2 o'clock Saturday night. I stayed through the whole thing because a buddy of mine that I'd met at half, I was like, what time did you get home? He's like, about 12:30. It's like, what? And he said, I left early in the 4th. And it was like, this kind of hits last week. So, yeah, they countered with that 12. They run a lot of 2 tight ends Saturday night, and NC State couldn't do much with it.
Nope.
We got 73-3 here. Got 73-0 here. We might see Old Navy, but I don't know, because I think you're probably going to see Gaston Moore. You're going to see Jake Merklinger. This will be Jake Merklinger's time to get some act. You might see Navy. And I was telling you, of course, before, and I saw Brent Hubbs today say this is the worst team that's come to Knoxville in like 30 years. So if all goes according to plan, like we think, how long do you, or at what point do you pull the starters? If everything goes according to plan.
I would say first quarter. It's not going to he won't pull them out in the first quarter, but he'll let them stick in there till about halftime. But first quarter, I think it could set up perfectly. First quarter, Nico. Second quarter, Gaston Moore. Third quarter, Jake Merklinger. Fourth quarter, Navy Schuler. They're still going to score 70 points. Like Eric said in the comments, I don't think he can try as much as he wants to, to keep their foot off the throat and not score, but it's going to end up like it happened against Chattanooga. The other team so bad, you just still end up scoring even when you're trying not to.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be one. I think they'll try to take their foot off of it. Like you said,
Yeah.
That would be ideal. I'm kind of like you. I don't see him pulling Nico after a quarter.
Yeah.
If everything goes according to plan, he definitely doesn't play the second half.
He won't. No.
I'd get Sampson out quick.
I would.
I'd let Sampson kind of run wild a little bit, and then I'd let Bishop and Keith and Peyton Lewis do their things. Wide receivers, I could see them playing a little bit more, getting them, but I would like to see those freshmen get a little bit of action to see what they can do. Tight ends, same offensive line. Somebody brought this one up about the line. If you get, of course, I know Sanders is not there, but if you get, or Utu's not there, but you get Satterwhite, you get some action for some of these young guys.
Yeah.
Shamumarov, I'd get them early and often this week because you can't afford to lose a Cooper Mays. You can't. You get him out when you can. You can't afford to lose really any of your starters. You just can't. I think there's a big drop off from there. Wide receivers, like I said, I mean, like Brew, I'd maybe pull him early. Some of these other guys, man, I'd rotate them a bit. Tight ends, kind of the same. You can probably rotate them a bit, but I'd also get, some of your guys on down the depth chart some action because all them tight ends, and we talked about it. I think we said in the preset, a couple of weeks ago, we expected they're all going to do something. At that point. Let's see where we want to shift to. So we're pretty much in agreement on it. Beat down City this week.
35-0 after the first quarter.
After the first quarter. Wow.
Market. Yep.
Tennessee take the ball if they get the kick, or if Kent State loses the toss, does Tennessee take the ball?
Just take the ball. You'll see the same thing.
I was surprised they didn't the other night, actually.
Yeah, I was surprised too. And then they're not going to – they got the first two set of downs to get us to 4th and long. Otherwise, we're going for it the rest of the way. And they're just not stopping us. It's unless something crazy happens and Sampson just drops the ball right out of his hands. 7-0 just like that.
Yeah, I think it's
I'd like to see the opening kick taken back. That'd be cool.
Yeah. This game take care of business, get some depth. I'd forgotten until yesterday you mentioned the kick about how the NFL would change it. Did you watch any of that with their kickoffs? Did you happen to see any of it?
Yeah, I watched a decent amount of NFL yesterday. I worked yesterday, but I watched what I could. I watched a lot in preseason too. I love it personally. I think it's cool. I don't think you should translate that into the college level, at least not right now. Maybe give it 5 years, but it's cool to see in the NFL level. You actually have competitive kickoff returns, and that's not something we've seen in the past 5 years at the NFL level.
Yeah, I thought it looked weird, but it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, I think the morale right now has to be sky high. You can't sit here and tell me last year that the morale was sky high. You just can't.
No, you can't.
And I don't necessarily think it was bad, but some of that stuff had to be frustrating to some guys last year. And, I don't think it was dislike of teammates or nothing, but, I mean, I can't imagine being in the locker room stuff. Kind of last thing I got a wondering eye, and we've kind of discussed it a little bit already with Oklahoma. We get to Oklahoma in 2 weeks. If that team takes care of business, does that change any of your expectations? Kind of hard to do based on what we both picked.
Yeah.
But
if they take care of business, beat them if they blow it out like some people are saying, like the gentleman earlier in the chat said, if they beat them 30-13 or whatever it was, that's huge. I mean, we've seen that once in the Josh Heupel career of going into someone else's house and beating them like that. And that was the LSU. And the only reason that really happened, in my opinion, was it was a noon game and we were ready and they weren't. If you can see, if Josh Heupel does that prime time in Norman, Oklahoma, I'm all in. I am fully bought in. If he beats them by 2+ scores at 7:30 at night on ABC in Norman, Oklahoma. Take all my money, Josh. Take all of it. House money, everything. Tony Vitello playing with the house money. We're gambling. I'm putting the house on Tennessee to win it all.
So does that mean you'd go to a neutral site game then?
Well, yeah, because then we're playing a college football playoff neutral site game.
Well, if it's not a playoff, if they do it, would that mean you'd go to a neutral site game then?
I'd have to think about it. It'd be a hard decision.
Are there any concerns going into Oklahoma?
No, I don't think there is. I think the biggest question mark is can Cam Seldon get healthy again? If he's healthy and can go, I'm fully ready.
I'm not going to lie. I've got to see him go do it in prime time.
Yeah, I do too.
We both
they
picked him to beat Oklahoma, but how many times in these night games have they absolutely streaked the bed?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know streaked it, bombed the bed, crapping it full. I mean, we both picked it. I think they're the better football team.
Yeah.
But, man, I thought that 2 years ago when I went to South Carolina. Now, of course, I think it's pretty obvious at this point what happened there, that all the theories are true on that one. But still, I mean, we talked about Florida last year. That Florida team sucked. Missouri, I thought, was at least decent.
Yeah, but they still just obliterated us.
Yeah. You are right. You are right on that. That's some pretty good comments here. How would you like to see the faces of NC State offense on when we rotate a new line in? There's no drop off. Man, does that not have to be just like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
When that happened, if you're an NC State
they haven't seen
lineman?
that. I mean, they haven't seen that. That's something that we've seen year in and year out with Alabama and Georgia and other teams. That's not something they get in the ACC. Out of none of the teams they play, even Clemson's not like that. So they had to be just shell-shocked out there.
Now, I think NC State plays Clemson this week. Do they not?
It's next week when we play Oklahoma. They play at Clemson.
Okay. All right. I think one of them may be off this week then, possibly. So, or I saw it coming up some point. But, crap. So, is that going to be a freaking night game for Clemson and NC State?
I tried to look earlier today when they announced it. I didn't see what time the Clemson.
Well, my thing here, the Greenville home of the Vol Lager, we can normally get a watch party for Tennessee if Clemson's not conflicting. Well, Clemson conflicts every freaking week. So I'm hoping Clemson's not playing at night, so we'll get the big screen there that night. But, I mean, NC, I just can't imagine you're thinking, all right, this first string, they're giving us a run for our money. Here comes second string. We'll do something against them. Nope, we can't do that. And then, like you mentioned earlier on, okay, here comes the third string. We'll get a little. Nope, they're pushing us around too.
Yeah,
I think at that point you're like, screw this. I don't want any of these guys. That's pretty crazy there. Team chemistry like the baseball team. Baseball team definitely had top notch. I think Heupel's gonna go to Norman and beat Oklahoma by at least 2 touchdowns. How fired up's Josh Heupel gonna be that night?
Gosh, dude, he's gonna be. It's like he'll look like he's did some drugs before the game. That's how fired up he's going to be. Just considering the standing that he has with that university over there, we know he's not on the greatest of terms. So he's going to be pretty stinking fired up, and it's going to be awesome to see. He may not give mercy to them if it comes to it, which would be
never know.
That would be.
He's not above running it up on. We've seen it. We've seen him run it up on old drunk wits and.
Also, I got good news for you. Clemson, NC State's at noon, according to CBS Sports.
Thank goodness.
On ABC.
Thank goodness. So there we go. Because that crap's starting to kind of get on my nerves a little bit. I don't have a problem with Clemson, but I mean, like we're at 30, 45 minutes from Clemson. So, I get they get take precedent, but I don't know. It's kind of annoying. You sell a Vol beer and you still show Clemson over.
What brings in
hit a
money,
couple
though, is what they got to think about.
That's right. You're exactly right. This is it. Oh, this is two good ones. 31-13 Vols, 38-21 over Bama. I'll take them both.
I will too.
Take them. There's old Boomhauer in here. He says VOLS. Oklahoma's saying they have O-line problems playing a third stringer or backup center. Ooh.
I didn't know that. I did not.
I didn't either, and that's not good news for Oklahoma.
News, thank
you. This is a good one. Does anybody know if Tyree West was really hurt or was it just a cramp? I'm thinking it was the old infamous.
It was, yeah.
Wasn't it a flop?
Yeah, that's what. And if I don't know if you watched the live clip of that, one of the offensive linemen on NC State pointed out and said, "He's faking it. He's faking it." And they picked it up.
I didn't see
ABC.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't know West was. Now, obviously, I started laughing pretty hard on the extra point where was it Jackson Lampley again?
It was Lampley, yeah.
I'm glad to see he still got his acting skills on that one. But I don't know what else to say about Tennessee. Tennessee, what they're doing now, I think this team is that good. I think they're that good. And I think as you go along the way, you look at even the future of it. Let's see, had a question here. How much of a rushing game do you see? How long will they have to get a pass off? I'm assuming that's Oklahoma. I mean, if Oklahoma's playing backups, I mean, and we were talking about it a minute ago, look at their stats from last week. If they can't rush anymore on that against Houston, Tennessee's going to eat their lunch for them. But it's at night. It's on the road. What happens then? But before we get out here, you got any final thoughts? Anything we've not discussed you've thought of or anything to add to it?
Nothing I can think of. Just go Vols.
Go Vols. We're in full football mode on here right now. Of course, basketball starts, first exhibition game next month?
Yep.
Around the end of October. I was told by a pretty good source this way. I think fall camp for baseball starts around the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just telling you guys this now. That freshman class that's coming in this year has got some absolute studs coming in baseball. And what they're doing in the weight room right now, I would not be surprised to see one or two freshmen in the weekend rotation this year.
Yep.
They have got some absolute beasts coming in. And the lineup's going to be really interesting as well. But this team's going to be stacked. They are stacked for at least the next couple of years. And you know, with Tony Vitale and staff, they're going to keep adding on to it. They're going to keep building on it. That baseball program's not going anywhere. I know A&M's going to be hard to go through this year. Yeah. I know other teams will. But
Texas.
I'm going to start some
slosh.
Yeah, I'm going to start some fall league preview here fall ball, looking at positions, what I'm looking for, what I'm hearing as well. Not that I'm some big insider, or anything. I have come up with a little bit on baseball, though, and we're going there. And then, of course, basketball right around the corner. And if you have not already, I started last night doing a 4-parter on the evolution of the Vols defense from when Josh Heupel, Tim Banks, this staff took over to where it is now. I'm going to do some more stuff. That's kind of some of my stuff I like to do, research stuff, put that in. I guess that's a little bit of the educator in me doing it. And, it's pretty fun to do. Curly or Ariel at short, Ariel. No doubt.
Yep.
If Ariel's
Curly's
bat
at third.
is Curly third, Keelan at second. That's my opinion. If Ariel is in the lineup, Ariel's shortstop. He's best shortstop. Now, I don't know what Marin. I've heard pretty good about Manny Marin coming in, and that there's some other
Fisher?
ones.
Where are you putting Andrew Fisher? Right field, first base?
Or DH. But I don't think he would have come here to DH.
I don't think he would have either.
Where do you put Reese Chapman?
Left or right field, DH if you have
Left
to.
or right?
Yeah.
That's kind of my thought. Is it Chapman and Fisher on the corners?
Yeah, that'd be nice to see.
And that kind of scared Chapman at times last year had some pretty good plays, and then he had some where he didn't. So it's like, I don't know. Or could a freshman come in? Because they've got, Lenore City, Walker, who was ranked just outside the top 100.
Yep.
Not a lot of people are talking about him. I'm curious to see where he plays in. It's going to be exciting. I'm telling you, this baseball team has got so much talent coming in. How do they all mesh? How do they get it done this year, guy? I cannot wait. So I hope you'll follow along here, because I can tell you right now, this is your place for Tennessee baseball. Without a doubt, it will be this year. We're going to wrap up on that one. We had a good night. Thank you all so much for tuning in with us. We'll roll again next Monday. Who knows? We may get a wild hair and pop up and do a live post game one night if we feel like it. We'll see. Probably not for a few weeks, but I know definitely home games will be hard because man right here will probably be in the stands for them. But
probably. Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see where we go. But we really appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a great rest of the evening. He's a living legend, Kerry Williams. Cool Hand Frank Rock, House of Orange Sports Channel. Last but definitely not least, go Vols.